Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm Matt Lighty here, and this is going to be the very brief guide and just a demonstration of my two-hand Cyclone guy I've been working on and playing for some time now. Level 91 at the moment, and I'll give you a brief rundown of the passive tree and what's up. But most of this information is easily accessible and more broken down in the guide. I have a Google Doc that I'll be attached in the description. So check it out if you want to know the real fucking lowdown on what's up. So let's look at what we got here. Starting Marauder. Life regen over health, that's not a big difference. To be honest, later on, you know, just shaving a point. But the general route is two hands, so I go across here. I need to pick up endurance charges because for Atziri and for mapping, it negates all Fizz Reflect completely. Resolute technique, so crit is not an issue. Grabbing all the effective life nodes. I'm using a two-hand axe at the moment, so all the axe and two-hand nodes that are good here. Just pretty much picking up the effective life nodes and wavering stance is necessary. Coming through Duelist, Art of the Gladiator is glorious for us, so is Master of the Arena since we're using Cyclone. Pretty much everything on that is great. We're not in Valpack because we're not crit in Valpack. Yeah, it doesn't really, doesn't really work as well if you're not crit. So life regen is pretty dope since we run Blood Rage. Our life regen is easily able to counteract the degeneration of that. Picking up all down here, getting Executioner and getting Wrecking Ball. It's a pretty standard tree. I have to pick up this one It node for Conk Effect and increased AoE. Sadly, I don't have the dopest jewelry. Sovereignty is necessary for running 3 auras. And if you're manually casting a Mortal Call and Enduring Cry, you're going to have to pick up a reduced mana reservation node unless you have level 20 plus 20/20 reduced mana. So in most case scenarios, you got to pick up one node, not the end of the world. I come up through here, I get Sanctity, coming through Discipline Training, Retribution, and the AoE nodes. I'm 91 at the moment, so if I get extra points, where am I going to toss them? Basically, the only places I would be putting them is getting that node because depending on your gear, that 12% armor overweighs just 1% life, and then just picking up more life pretty much. That's all there is to it. Dump the rest of my points into life. It's a very straightforward build. These aren't really worth it because his accuracy nodes they're dead stats because of Resolute technique, and onslaught and kill isn't the biggest thing, just ever in any universe, ever. That's pretty much it for the tree. Again, it'll be in the link below. If you really wanted more damage, you could go this route if you really wanted to. I still would suggest against it. This also, when coming up the life tree, is just kind of viable, but I still would suggest against it. Damage really won't be your issue. And for this build, these axe nodes aren't that very, it's meh. But if you want damage, the best things for axe would be here, here, and here. That's a person. If you're going swords, take out these, dump them into here. You just come through here, you get sword nodes. If you're going mace, same scenario for here. It's very accessible to switch if you're going staff. If you're going staff, I would suggest going crit, and even so, you just grab these nodes here. Where the fuck this is? You pick up these nodes here, and you get the crit nodes, and it's a lot more damage, but requires staffs are expensive to get a good two-hand crit staff. So what does this guy want? 12 stacks of fusing, so that's how many fusing is that? 60. Yeah, sure. Okay. Just completely off track here. Alright, let me trade this fucking guide in the middle of this guide. Alright, let's do this. What am I trading? Fantastic. Fast trades you. That's why you should always regal your vacant deckers, so you can make that. Alright, back on track. Let's talk about gems and links real quick. I have. Let's talk about gear actually. Gear is really super simple. I like builds that give you a lot of dead stats, and that sounds weird, but it's good for a reason, and this is the reason. Giving yourself a lot of dead stats means you can focus solely on specific stats for gear. Namely, crit, dead stat for me. Crit multi, dead stat for me. Accuracy, dead stat for me. Mana, dead stat. Mana regen, dead stat. It gets you lots of dead stats, so things that are good become really good. So my gloves are pretty good. Physical damage, great, fine. Strength, even better. It's physical damage, that's life. Life is life. Double res is res. Armor is armor. These are all good stats for you. Optimally, I'd probably want to have attack speed, 16% if I could get that. That's not going to happen. Helmet, Devotee's Devotion is one of the three uniques for this build that I would say is just fucking crazy good. Literally every stat in here is something you want. Okay, mediocre armor, that's fine. Mine's not in quality because I'm a bum. But yeah, it's reduced physical damage is not good. Obviously, it gives you so much DPS though. Over Abyssus give you almost the exact same DPS. This actually gives you a little more and 20% movement speed, which is great for Cyclone. Dex, which is actually crazy important because then you don't have to. This saves you from getting 2 passive Dex nodes in the tree or having to really hunt for Dex on gear. Chaos Res helps a ton with Blood Rage degeneration. And you get Mercury Footprints, which you can barely even see because I have grassy footprints. But yes, and it's not a very expensive helmet in any league. Chest, I'm using Chaoms if you can afford Chaoms. Just Belly of the Beast is fine, Carcass Shack is fine. This just gives you a ton of health. And the increased fire damage helps scalar damage from Herald of Ash and from your added fire damage, wherever the fuck it is, gem. So it's a minor damage increase, but mainly it's just for the dope-ass health is great. Boots, again, just some tri-res. Movement speed is really good. Life. Rings, you just want life, res. That's it. Life and res. And then more life. And if you can get dex or int, that's fine. This ring looks like shit. It is shit. Gives me a bunch of res and it has int and dex. That's all I need. And these I have pieces of shit jewelry. Same scenario. Mana Leech is again useless. Life Leech, if you can get Life Leech, is fine. Leech isn't going to be an issue because you can run a 20/20 Blood Rage, which gives you what? Well, it gives you, Frenzy Charges, which are nice, but it gives you 10%. Basically allows you to run a 7-link. So this saves you from having to run the Life Leech gem. And I have no problem doing, 8 modded 78 maps without having a Life Leech gem hooked in. This is perfectly fine. Vengeance is awesome. It's awesome. You can get quality fine. It doesn't have to be 23% quality, but it makes it trigger more often. There is an internal cooldown on it, but you're not gonna really. It's fine. It's like a couple seconds, and it does damage. That's great. And yes, it leeches you some life. That's great. Mainly, I have it hooked up to Endurance Charge and Melee Stun. What does that do? It gets us Endurance Charges. Now you'd be saying, oh, but it's not going to get you much. Like, it's not going to get you the same amount as Castle Damage Taken and Enduring Cry. Fuck you, you're wrong. This shit, because we're scaled, we have, some AoE nodes in the tree, and this does scale off of AoE nodes since it's all enemies around you, and you're just in the shit. And this reduces their stun threshold. You have a big fucking 2-hand, so it's easy to stun things. You will get easily. You can run around with 6 charges. Like, no problem because of this. I have Portal because my boots are ES and it's hard to get red, green. Optimally, you'd want Enhance. Enhance is your best slot here. It helps with Blood Rage, it helps with Vengeance, so it allows you to double dip basically. Hatred, Herald of Ash, Haste, all pretty standard. If you have shit dex for some reason, even though this should give you all the decks you pretty much need. You can run low level haste, you can run low level hatred. I don't swap out any gems for anything for auras. These are all fine for all the time. If you're doing Atziri and Uber and you're really fucking bad at dodging and you're really scared, put in Purity of Fire over Held of Ash. That's understandable. Reduce mana. Again, it have to be 2120, but if it's not 2020, you have to run an extra reduce mana node. Otherwise, you can't solely cast. You can't self-cast Enduring Cry. So I have cast on damage taken, Enduring Cry, Immortal Call, increased duration. I just valid a 2120, so actually I can't even trigger this. That's beside the point. You really just want to have a high level cast on damage taken as possible. And remember, the order does matter, so it has to be cast on damage taken. You have to have Enduring Cry in front of Immortal Call. In front, I mean in the chain that is this motion. So you can have Immortal Call here, Enduring Cry here, and increased duration here. That's fine, but as long as Enduring Cry is in the order in front of Immortal Call, then you're good. For Atziri and for high level maps, I just like self casting. So I just put in, you replace cast on damage taken with Spell Echo, and you just self cast it. You Enduring Cry first, Immortal Call second, and then you have, without much difficulty, a 10 to 15 second Immortal Call, which is no problem. But for mapping, just throw in a cast on damage taken. You're never going to die to Reflect Fizz because it triggers, even with 3 stacks, that's a 7 second Immortal Call. Not a much of a difficult thing to attain. That's easy for clearing packs. One thing this build does die to, I say one thing, the only thing this build will ever die to is Elemental Reflect, because you do a ton of elemental damage whether you believe it or not. You think, oh, I'm a straight Fizz build, fuck you, you're wrong again, you do a lot of elemental damage. Cyclone is linked to weapon elemental damage, which that has something to do with it. Blood magic, because I ain't paying for mana. Melee physical, which is the gold standard for melee physical damage. Increased air effect when mapping. If you're at a boss, you could toss in Conk Effect. It almost doubles your damage. Right now, I have a tooltip of 23k DPS with increased AoE. Toss in Conk Effect, bam, 39k. It's a huge boost. You don't need a 6-link if you're going to toss out stuff. Well, let's just see what happens. So, bam, I just lost, what is that? So that's 23k, I lost 6k from that. It's probably your best bet to take a weapon elemental damage over anything else. Melee physical makes you lose more. Added fire damage makes you use a little less. But in actuality, I take out this because then elemental reflect isn't as big of a deal. So if you have a 5-link, take that out. If you have a 4-link, take that out, and my AoE DPS is still 13k. Atziri's disfavor is best in slot for Axe, unless you have a mirrored Axe, which case you're probably not watching this. I digress. 4-socket Axe you can do it with, just some high DPS thing. Causes bleeding on hit, doesn't really do a whole lot. Plus 2 level of socket support gems, does a little bit. Then again, most of these support gems don't scale off a level that well, but it's still decent. Attack speed's great, top end's great, crit doesn't exist, accuracy doesn't matter. Weapon range just makes your Cyclone longer, and it also makes your Vengeance, hit larger. That's pretty much the gear breakdown for flasks. More charges, remove bleeding, ample of staunching. Quicksilver's fine. Roomies if you can't afford roomies, get a granite flask. Seething and staunching is a staple for most melee builds. Saturated of heat, I just like because I don't like to be frozen. I don't get frozen often. You have a huge health pool. Burning isn't going to affect you, so ignite removal isn't a big deal. And saturated, you just want a long, slow rolling flask. If you want, you can just roll a second one of these and just have it of the heat also. Not a big deal. And at Atziri's promise, people will pay you to take theirs off their hands, so it's a joke of money. But whether or not this is better than just having a second flask, if you get a little scared, roll a second seething of staunching. It's fine. Not a huge deal DPS wise. So let's run a map, and by map I mean let's run Atziri. Okay, so we're going to run Atziri just as an example of what this build can do. My gear is good, not great. Most expensive thing is 6-link disfavor, which is, yes, it's 50 exalted. You could buy an unlinked one for like 10 to 15, give or take. Roll is not amazing. It's not hard to 4-link it yourself. So in total, this build can functionally kill Atziri like a joke, for 20 Exalted, which is pretty budget, and it's definitely uber viable with this gear setup, and better gear would make it more so, but that's pretty much that. It mows down most fucking everything. Like I said, trash is not going to be an issue ever. Oh look, we got a short bow. Normally I kill all trash, but for the example of this video, I'll just run through most of it. I like to kill all trash. Some people don't like to kill all trash, and I've run Queen 500 times in the past month probably. And it's, you know, I still kill all trash because I've gotten better loot from trash than I have from Atziri itself. This fight's really fucking simple. The one thing I want to say to be careful about is you can ignite because you have fire damage, a lot of it, and you do bleed. So when you're, just be careful killing the double oversouls. You don't want them to die the same time, obviously, because then one goes batshit crazy. So we like to, you know, kill them, give or take the same time. So we get one kind of low, that's fine. As you can see, it was ignited, so if I tried to tank it, just drop it, it'd be really low. Let me just sweep in and kill the second one. And, you know, I did DPS probably for a couple seconds in each of those, so even with lesser DPS, that's not an issue still. Trash is not an issue. That being said, Val Fallen, which are the soldier-esque looking Vals, trash mobs will still fuck any build up anywhere. You get frozen, you can still get killed. That's just how the game works, but that's why we keep the flask that can unfreeze us, because, believe it or not, it's quite useful. Walking through. This fight's a little bit tricky. It's good to actually have this fight going where you run in with a couple of endurance charges, because then you can just simply walk in, and you want to kill him first, you want to kill Whirlwinder second. Now you watch your endurance, Mortal Call endurance charge things, and you just make sure you always have them up, and it shouldn't be that difficult. Like right now I'm at 6, alright, bam. Now I have a 10-second window to kill her, which is plenty of time. She's dead. I'm out of here. You take 0 damage from her. She's strictly physical. So as long as you keep a Mortal Call up, then it's all gravy. You're good. You don't take any damage. The only ones that do hybrid damage, the Dual Striker deals half fire when he's on fire, and the chaos damage to the ground is still chaos damage, and the bleed still cuts through your Mortal Call. So that's why you always like to keep on staunching flasks for that. But again, it's not much of a big deal. And if this does look easy and you've tried Queen before and you say, wow, this isn't this easy for me, or I have a tougher time with this, that's just because you need practice on Queen, and that's fine. Everyone does. No one starts doing Queen and they're just walking in like Jesus. No. You know, everyone fucks up. You take your time, practice Queen, it becomes easier. That's just Path of Exile in general. It's a game of knowledge and a game of learning. But trash is very easy. It's better to keep on increased AoE. It makes it a lot easier for yourself. For trash. And look, I've gained. See, it's just endurance charge you gain from this is not to be discounted. That is the wrong slot. For Queen, you don't need to swap out any flasks. Everything that hits you still hurts. Just dodge everything. Stuff isn't very hard to dodge on normal Queen. The hardest thing to dodge is maybe the double flame blast if you position wrong. For these, I like to stand between the opposite ones of her. So I like to kill her first. You want to bait out the flame blast. Flame blast hits like every 4 or 5 seconds, so you kind of bait it out. Like I want to kill her, so I wait for it to come to me. Then I run to the target, which is my target, which is that bitch. Again, this is pretty easy. Your blood rage pretty much goes through it. For the split phase, which hasn't happened yet, but still might, you want to put on increased AoE. You do less damage, but it makes it a lot easier on yourself overall. I like her to go to split phase. This is a little tricky, this part. You can get in a weird stance. So here's the split phase, We're going to toss on increased AoE. And your range has +4 because of 2 from Disfavor, 2 from the node from the Duelist tree, so old Duelist area, so it's not, again, it's not much of an issue to hit them. And if 1 or 2 get to her, not the end of the world. It heals her slightly. You just want to make sure that you put Conk Effect back on, you know, because it's a huge damage boost for single target. There she is, so we're going to go over here, wait for the Flame Axe to blade out, come in here, and get her down. It's a marathon, not a race, in general. And there we go, and she's down. And that's maybe an easier and faster way than you capable of doing it. The principles are the same, pretty much. Double Val Oversoul, drop one to about 10%, kill the other one when the other one pops up, burn it down. Trash, if trash is really an issue, then you can use Enduring Crab Mortal Call for trash. If mana regen seems like an issue, and it can be for some, you can redirect 2 nodes to Shaper. You get life regen and 40% mana regen. Does help with you casting Enduring Crab Mortal Call at a more expedited pace. It becomes faster, which is not bad. That about wraps this up. If I didn't answer any questions here, they're most likely in the guide in the description below. Yeah, if you have any question with the build, let me know. I'm at Lighty, and I'll catch you guys later.